This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to the latest episode of DocNJock, featured on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, as always, my guy, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. On today's show, the Pistons season fell apart. A big, swift kick in the nuts to end the season. A win in Game 6 made everybody feel great, only to return home to find out that, Dan Gilbert wanted to send his whole family, his whole Cleveland family, to LCA. And what was concerning, and we'll talk about it, the Pistons fell apart. It wasn't competitive. That is a little bit unusual for a team that hasn't lost a home game in a Game 7 in their franchise history. So it's a little bit concerning in that the Pistons were a number 1 seed. They don't get out of the second round. And it was a collapse. They didn't play defense. They got blown out. It was an ass kicking of the ages, and it was weird. It was something had to have been underlying that motivated the Cavs. I don't know if it was respect or Donovan Mitchell feeling like it was time to put the throttle down, but my goodness. And we'll talk about the frustrations. We'll talk about the blame. We'll talk about Trajan Langdon. And if you guys need some sleep, if you're having some sleep problems, just turn on Trajan Langdon, and within 8 minutes, I guarantee you'll fall asleep. So we'll talk about it, but what happened in Game 7? Do you get mad because you say when the trade deadline hit, all the fans were like, you're not winning it. All you can do is just say, well, get to the playoffs. Can you get to the Eastern Conference Finals? You didn't. So to me, this season was a failure. It's disappointing. You know how I roll. It's first place is ecstasy and second place is nothing. So you didn't even get to the Final Four. And it just feels like a wasted opportunity. But as hours pass, what I think pisses me off, a little bit more, is the fact that Trajan Langdon declared he was going to evaluate, but I just feel like at that level when you're making millions, how do the fans kind of know you don't have enough shooting and floor spacing? How do we know and you don't? But on the other side, you could say, wait a minute, why would you give up assets when everybody knows that Wemby's coming, SGA's coming? You want to be able to see what they bring before you figure out how to match it. So there's a lot of layers to it, but I just can't help sit here, scratch my head, and go, what happened to the number 1 seed?
Here's the deal. You got to be able to get into that game to play those guys. And Trajan Langdon did not do a good enough job putting this team in position to get to that game to see how they would match up. So with Game 7, I think what you had was just a team that basically hit the wall. I think that Cade Cunningham, if you go back and you look at the previous 2 and 3 games before Game 7, you started to see a decline in his performance. You started to see him running on fumes. I think at the very end, he just didn't have any more to give. And I think this team runs off of him. Game 6, this team was able to pick him up and carry him into Game 7. Game 7, they turned around and they looked at him and they were like, hey, man, you got us? And he had nothing else to give. He was done. And I think because of that, the rest of the team just kind of fell apart and imploded around him. You can't expect a guy like a Duncan Robinson, a Tobias Harris, Jalen Duren played like absolute ass this entire series, and the series before that, his playoff run has been absolute garbage, and we'll talk a little bit about him later on. But you can't look at those guys and expect those guys to be able to give you a performance to offset what Cade would normally do. And this goes back to kind of what you were saying about Trajan Langdon and him not really doing anything at the trade deadline. Like, there was nobody else besides Cade who could really lift this team. You were hoping that Jalen Duren would come in here and he'd be able to carry some of his regular season performance. Obviously, that wasn't the case. That was definitely not the case the entire playoffs. So after that, Tobias Harris filled in for a little bit. His last 4 games, he disappeared. Duncan Robinson had games where he shined and he disappeared. And you look at all the guys around him. Sir Thompson is solid on defense, but I'm also not looking at a Sir Thompson to go out there and give me 20. You know what I'm saying? And you have Dennis Jenkins. I mean, look, Dennis Jenkins was a G League player. When you're counting on prime minutes and you're counting on big time scoring from a G League player, that tells you about how your team's constructed. And that's where this team is at right now. They're just not put together well. Cade did an admirable job. Jalen Duren, I think, at the back end of the regular season did a really nice job, but he fell apart in the postseason. So I think this team just ran out of juice. I think they hit the skids, and I think it ended up being what it was. And this team was not competitive in Game 7. This team did not put up a fight. This team looked like it had waved the white flag from the moment the ball got tipped up in the air, and they were chasing the entire time. Never able to make a run, and they couldn't get out of their own way, which leads to this. I think this loss was so incredibly frustrating because it felt like going into the playoffs, the East specifically was wide open. The East was wide open, and it was there for you to take it. We just got done talking a little bit about matching up against the likes of OKC and San Antonio. You don't know what you have because you can't get there. Like, those guys are obviously the bar. Those two teams, they are the bar. That's where you want to be. But you don't even know where you rank against them. You don't even know how you compare against them because you couldn't even get to the finals to play them. And when we had talked about expectations for the season, it was finals and bust for us. Like, you didn't have to win the NBA championship, but you needed to get to the finals, and you couldn't do that. You couldn't even get to the Eastern Conference Finals. And I think when you look at how it's going to play out, I feel like the Knicks are the perfect opponent for the Pistons to have played. I feel like you needed to get by Cleveland, and we talked about getting by Cleveland. You needed to get by Cleveland, and then I felt like, yes, the Knicks were going to be tough for you. But I felt like there was enough history there. There was enough of a grudge match there that you perform incredibly well. Like, it seems like your game gets amplified when you go up against the Knicks. And I wanted to see those two teams slug it out for the Eastern Conference. And I felt like you just had to get there. You just had to get there. And then you got the punch your ticket to see how you matched up against the absolute best in the NBA. And you just couldn't do it. How frustrating of a loss was this Game 7? Again, they didn't show up. They were non-existent in this game, and then you completely, in my estimation, lost a chance to go and play in the finals, which you and I had said was the goal. That was the goal for the season when they made it to the playoffs as the number 1 seed. You have to get to the NBA finals because the East is wide open, and this team couldn't take advantage of it. How frustrated are you coming off of Game 7 and looking at what was right in front of this team?
Yeah, it's look, man, it was one of those things where it was a team that had flaws. It couldn't shoot, but all the concerns were there. What sucks? What did we say on the Doc and Jock podcast? We said this team goes as Tobias Harris goes, as Jalen Duren goes. How do they perform? How do Karis LeVert? How do the role players help out Cade Cunningham? And you left the man to dry. It's like, go ahead, Cade, play 42 minutes and figure it out. The man is like coming off of a collapsed lung, issues with his ribs, and he's got to basically carry the team. And he's like, all right, I'm going to pass it to Tobias Harris, and there's nothing. And, I mean, guess how many shots Tobias Harris made? The same number as Adam in his lifetime, 0. It's like, come on. You know, it's disappointing, and I get it. People will say, yeah, if you take an objective look, the Pistons are nowhere close to the Spurs and you're nowhere close to OKC. But I would like to have seen it. I feel like you would have been it would have been a nice opportunity had you not gone 7 games against Orlando. And look, objectively, it just stings a little bit. It's frustrating to know that, you know what, top to bottom, the Pistons were a fraudulent number 1 seed. They just weren't really a number 1 seed. You weren't better than Cleveland top to bottom in regards to the lineup. I mean, Mobley's better. And what was really terrible was just in that game, if you just want to look at the game, the defense was so out of sorts. It was weird. They weren't coming off screens properly. It was like, I am not expecting like world beater competition and unworldly, ungodly three-point shooting. But can I see you not, Karis LeVert, get caught up in screens? Can I see you not like overly pursue the basketball and then being out of position so that the open three-point shooter is right there uncontested? Tobias Harris, can you figure out your responsibility? No. And so it's just disappointing that when everything that can go wrong goes wrong. And that's what's frustrating. So I blame, to me, I look at it and I say, Trajan Langdon, and you can't really be all that mad other than he declared his intentions. He said, look, I want to evaluate what we got. And he doubled down on it, and it makes it true when you hear how he was talking at the presser. And we'll talk about that later. But I look at it and I say, man, like the Pistons maybe were in denial regarding maybe the potential of what could have happened in an East that didn't have Halliburton, didn't have, Tatum all the way through the year. So I would have said, look, plans changed. I would have said, you know what? Let's take a calculated gamble. Let's get a Kennard. Let's get a floor spacer. Let's see if we can get somebody, and let's take a stab. And maybe, that second round pick or that first round pick you give up, fine. That means you just got to spend a couple more $1 million for the proven player. But guess what? Everyone that's like, well, you don't want to give up assets. I mean, no, I don't want to be disrespectful, but is anybody going to miss Ron Holland if he's not on the team? No. He's a top
what did Ron
pick.
Holland give you? He lost his rotational spot.
Yeah, so, give me a proven player and spend, and I'll be okay. I feel like the part that we never get to see, the unwritten story, is things changed. There was a chance. Maybe you would have got blown out by the Oklahoma City Thunder. So what? You might have had a chance. Maybe in one of those games, you could say, well, he rolls his ankle, or someone gets healthy and he trips, or something happens, or he's off. Remember, the 04 Pistons were expected to lose easily to the Lakers. So I just wanted to see if they would have pushed. And I think what's most frustrating, cuz it's simple to me. What's most frustrating is we've added yet again another chapter of days of our general managers not adding at the deadline. And it's just another example, another reminder. Deadline comes, nothing happens, and season collapses. Happened to the Lions, 23. Happened to the Tigers last year. Oh, you need a hitter? Yeah, the guy that hit a home run against you in a critical game. Yeah, that guy, Suarez, the guy that you guys all said, oh, he sucks on defense. Well, yeah, how much did he suck when he was rounding the bases in Seattle, celebrating? Yeah, karma there. And then now your Detroit Pistons, they add Kevin Huerter, and for whatever reason, injury or whatever the reason was, I wasn't up to his game status. He wasn't available to do a whole heck of a lot to help you out. So it's disappointing. That's what frustrated me. More proof these general managers are risk averse to add at the deadline.
Yeah, look, I agree with you 100%. And I think that kind of leads into who I blame the most for this problem. I think when you look at what took place in Game 7, when you look at what took place with the playoffs, when you look at how the season came to an end, like you had games against Orlando that you got lucky you got out of. When you look at the series against Cleveland, you got lucky that you were able to force it to a Game 7, and then you didn't show up in Game 7. And I think all of that kind of falls at the feet of Trajan Langdon. And yes, true to what he said, he told you exactly what he was going to do. He was like, hey, we're going to sit back, we're going to add on the margins, and we're going to evaluate. To your point, what would Ron Holland have got you? Because he didn't give you anything in the playoffs. He didn't give you anything down the stretch. Look, I know that the organization thinks highly of him. I get it. I totally understand it. But all that being said, the East was wide open. I don't know if you get an opportunity like this next year. I think next year, the East becomes that much more difficult because the players that had missed the majority or all of the season are now coming back. Those guys and those teams, they're going to be in a bit of a different situation because they're going to have a higher draft pick because they didn't finish the season as successfully as they would. They're getting those guys back. Those guys are going to be at 100%. And I just feel like now you've done nothing. You've done absolutely nothing to this team. And when you listen to the Trajan Langdon presser, it sounds like he just wants to bring everybody back. He wants to bring the entire band back together, and he wants to roll the balls out and do it again. He said, yeah, maybe we'll add another piece. I think you're at least 2 pieces away on this team. I think you've got to add more. You have to do more. And I feel like right now, similar to the likes of a Steve Yzerman, similar to the likes of a Brad Holmes, it's very evident what you need to add to this team, yet the general manager or the president of those organizations is just kind of thumbing their nose at it. And they're saying, nope, we're going to do it my way. We're going to do it this way. And we're going to watch this team grow, and it's going to grow, and it's going to grow, and it's going to grow. And yeah, there's going to be pain along the way. And yeah, there might be an opportunity for us to fast track this, but we're just going to go slow and steady, and we're going to follow our pace. At a certain point, the door's wide open. You just got to walk through it. You don't even have to kick it in. You just got to walk through. This team failed to walk in and walk through that door, and I blame Trajan Langdon for it. Who do you blame most for just the way the season unfolded at the very, very end?
Yeah, it's a fascinating look, and you realize, okay, the players, I think a little bit everybody takes accountability. The players didn't perform. Tobias fell short again in the postseason at the worst possible time. Cade turnovers at the worst possible time. It just felt like, you know what, they reached their ceiling one round too short. And it just everything caught up to them with having the 7-game physical series against Orlando, the Cavaliers, and just, you know, you could even look at it just situationally. You were up, I believe, when you were, you know, in a game where you had like a 5 to 9 point lead and you gave it up and you had to go into overtime. So I just feel like, man, there were opportunities where you're up 2-0, you're up 3-2, and you don't close it out. So it's wild to think about, you know, being up 2-0, blowing this series, not having the opportunities that you needed, and you realize, okay, you know, you lose 2 games, and you come back home in Game 5, and that doesn't work out. You were down 3-2, and then you realized, okay, you blew out the Cavaliers. Maybe that Game 6 was the game where you maybe earned a little bit of overconfidence, like, okay, we can just turn on the switch. And part of it, that's where JB Bickerstaff is like, fine, you weren't the level of talent, fine, but a double-digit loss? Like, coaching should at least get you motivated. Like, JB Bickerstaff, that's some of the reasons why you say, man, some of the rotations not up to par, not at the level where you say, well, we have a distinct advantage because of our coach. But by and large, the blame for the collapse goes to Trajan Langdon. He put this together, and he was the biggest thing that happened was, and I think everybody sees it clearly, he wasn't willing to risk a little bit of his evaluation. His thesis was, I'm going to sit back and I want to know definitively. I don't want to guess if Jalen Duren's going to fall short. And now I want to see it. He didn't want to guess. Like, everyone's like, Tobias Harris is not 18. He ain't 25. He ain't 29. We have a whole history of Tobias not performing in the playoffs. There's a history. And you realize all everybody said was, all right. And this is where the beauty of this thing called analytics comes in. People look at it and they go, all right. Radio hosts, podcasters, critical fans, NBA analysts said, teams that win in the postseason, and I don't know why people just disregard this, teams that win have to be able to shoot threes. Where do the Pistons fall in the regular season? Not top 10. Not great at all. And you're like, okay. And what did we say in our preview? We said there's regular season basketball and there's playoff basketball. You can't run and gun. You're not going to get Jalen Duren 15 points off of cheap shit. It's not going to happen. We talked about it. Regular people said we're concerned. Okay, if the regular common man saw the concerns, how did the guy that played in the National Basketball Association, played at Duke, supposed to be cerebral, how did he not know? Like, how did he not ascertain that the team wasn't good enough? He didn't want to guess. I mean, I don't think it would have been a whiff to say, you know, if I trade Tobias and I get somebody, do you think that somebody might have given 10 points in Game 7? Yeah. Do you think that maybe Karis LeVert was not the correct option? Do you maybe say, you know what? We don't go with Duncan. We like what he brings to the table. We got to pivot, but maybe we get somebody better. So that's just what I look at is I just feel like Trajan should have had it feels like Trajan should have knew the answers to the test. Instead, he just wanted to go take the final. It really, cuz it's the best metaphor. Trajan got the copy of the answers. It's like Trajan gets a nice assistant, comes in his office and says, Trajan, 100%, these are the answers to the test. And he stood up and put his hand up and said, thumbed his nose and said, no. I shall not peek at the answers to the test. I will not do that. I will not. No. what I need to know. I want to study and I want to take that test and I want to know and prove that I know this and learned it. Okay, you saw it, bro. And everybody told you what was going to happen. So, but in the end, the crazy part that bothers me is what frustrates me now on a certain level is the fact that they look at it like progress. And I'm like, okay, yeah, first round.
That's the most disappointing part about it all.
It's not progress. It feels like you wasted a chance to be in the NBA Finals. And you might have had a chance if you get hot shooting. You might have had a chance if you just added. You robbed us of the chance. And people would have been fine. Nobody would have cared about your assets, and nobody would have cared because you had a little bit of a cheat code. The East had injuries. You had and I just think that sometimes the trust the process changes. It's like, oh shit, the final exam has been posted online. Fuck it, look at it. It's on TikTok. The whole world's looking at it. Fucking
just pull the book out.
That's what's frustrating is it feels like one big wasted opportunity. But the Pistons look at it like, well, we now know what we got. We know that we got to pay Thompson and Jalen Duren, but we got to add. And he said we got to add shooting, floor spacing, and opportunities to, get into the half court better and facilitate better, which is fine, which lends to obviously the opportunities maybe that you could go get some better players. Because, all right, put your Trajan hat on. He now invites you into the room. He's like, yeah. He's like, I got a free pass for 2 years, brother. This team was horrible. I get the curve, brother. I don't get to build a championship in 2 years. What do you think? I'm some miracle worker? I don't got to do all that work. That's extra lifting. I don't want to do any of that. I'm just going to sit back and go, show me what you got. I go, okay. Now he's got to produce. What does he do to make this team better? Because look, we're all clowning around online saying, yeah, get Devin Booker. And then all the fans are like, yeah, Doc, he signed a massive long-term contract, and his contract in 2029 is $69 million. So Devin Booker, not the option. What the hell do you do? It doesn't feel like Trey Murphy, Markkanen, Kawhi Leonard makes me laugh because he's going to sit his ass on the bench.
Yes.
It doesn't feel like there's anything big right now because the cheat code went to San Antonio. The cheat code is now in OKC. They run the NBA, and you're playing catch up. It just felt like you had one shot to maybe cheat, and now you got to actually take the AP course and you got to study. You got to do the group work. You don't get the answers anymore because the professor found out and is like, oh, the test was all over the internet? Okay, I'm going to change it up. I'm going to create the hardest test to make up for the fact that it leaked. That's what's going to happen. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, the Pistons will get better. And then magically Wemby's going to shrink 8 inches and not be a 40-20 guy. And SGA is going to turn into Cade Cunningham. Come on, guys. There's legends. And you don't even have that. You have good players. But NBA, you win with legends. So that's where it's tough because the East is going to get tougher and the legends out West are going to get even better.
Yeah, look, I think what has to happen is Trajan Langdon has to go into this offseason and he's going to have to make moves. I know we'll talk about his presser and kind of things we took out of it, but the one thing that he kept kind of going back to was he wants to bring these guys back. He wants to keep this team intact. He feels like this team is together, but I think you've got to go and you've got to add a combo guard to this team to kind of alleviate some of the pressure from Cade, especially late in the game when he's wore down. You need somebody else who can bring the ball up and who can also shoot, who can also score and allow Cade to play a little off ball at times. So I think you have to go get a combo guard. And I think that you need somebody to help with the floor spacing, right? Like that was something that he kept harkening back to and talking about. And I would love for it to be Lauri Markkanen, right? Like that's a dude who can stretch the floor and shoot, and it would allow Jalen Duren to be able to set up shop and do what he needs to do. And he'd be your Robin to Cade, essentially. I would love to see that. I don't know if that's possible though. When you look at the free agents that are available, there really isn't anybody who's really worth a damn out there. There's nobody that you really want to invest a sizable contract to. So that just kind of leads me with trades. And I don't know how likely Trajan Langdon is going to be to facilitate or pull off a monster trade. I don't know how likely that's going to be to occur, but I feel like you're at least 2 players away, right? You need another combo guard, like I said, to take some of that pressure off of Cade. And then You need somebody down low to help space things out, whether it's a 3 or a 4. You need to be able to go get that guy who can shoot, who can take over parts of a game if you need him to. And like I said, the only way I see that happening is through trade. So I don't know how he gets it done, but bringing this team back together, it just isn't going to work, right? Like Kevin Huerter doesn't need to be here. Duncan Robinson doesn't need to be here. Tobias Harris, a guy who he said that he wants to bring back, doesn't need to be here. If I'm being honest with you, I would love to work out a sign and trade for Jalen Duren because I don't need to see him again. I know what you are. I know what you do. You're a superhero in the regular season, but you're nothing come playoff time, and you can't get out of your own way. Like you want me to celebrate you having I think it was like a 15-11 game. Bro, go kick rocks. It's the playoffs. I need you to man up. Let's go. And you're going to want, what, $40 million? You're not a $40 million player. If we're being honest, you might be because of your regular season success. You might be a $25 million player, but you're nothing in the offseason or in the postseason. I don't need that. I don't want that on my team. Like, honestly, you look at the roster, and I think Cade is untouchable, obviously. And I think maybe a Sewer, because I think at certain points he dominated and he showed what he brings. Also, he's a young player. I can see growth from him. I can see him taking that next step next year. But after that, you could blow this whole entire thing up and we could just rebuild, because I don't feel like the roster was put together well enough. I feel like it was on Cade's back, and Cade carried these guys into the postseason. And you've got a lot more work to do if you want to be a championship contender. And I feel like next season, we've already highlighted it, it's going to be that much more difficult because guys are going to get healthy. Guys are going to come back to their teams, and those teams are going to be stronger. Like, I don't see Boston taking a step back. Remember, Boston was a bit of a headache getting into the playoffs. And then, yeah, they fizzled a little bit, but they're going to have their stud back. They're going to have their Batman back. Same thing with Indiana. Indiana is going to be a problem next year. Knicks obviously still a problem. Cleveland's still a problem. So that leaves you. Orlando was a problem. So you might be the 6th best team in the East if we were to sit there and rank it out right now. And like the team that you have bringing the guys back just isn't going to get the job done. You need to go out there and you need to be ballsy and you need to make some moves to make this team better, because it's just not good enough. Which leads me to this. Trajan Langdon talked a lot about bringing the team back together. That's the one thing I don't want to see. I want to see major moves made. He talked about signing Tobias Harris and signing Jalen Duren. I don't want to sign either one of those guys. The contracts are going to be too massive, and I feel like they're going to end up hampering you. Now, yes, it's a soft salary cap league. Yes, you can get into the luxury tax, and you can be on that apron, and you can do all that stuff. I get it. I understand. But I don't want to be there. I don't want to commit 5 years and $20 million to a dude who struggles to just rebound. I was watching these games. Paul Reed gave more energy and played a bigger, better role than Jalen Duren did. I can get Paul Reed for a discount, and I like the way the offense flows, and I like what he does on the defensive side of the ball more than what Jalen Duren does. So if I can get your Shopper World's Dollar General knockoff for pennies on the dollar, I'm going to go that route instead of signing you. That's why I said a sign and trade would be great. You get your second, whoever your Robin is, you get him here by trading away Jalen Duren after signing him to his contract. I would absolutely love that, and that would be fantastic for me. I don't want to see Tobias Harris again. I like Tobias Harris. I like that the locker room likes him. I think that's all fine and good. Okay. But he disappears in the playoffs. Like he doesn't bring you anything. So my big concern going into the offseason is that this team won't be ballsy enough, that this team will be a little risk adverse, and that this team will end up signing guys like Tobias Harris, like Jalen Duren, figuring out ways to bring bit players back instead of going out and making an impact and getting a guy in here to really help Cade. If I'm Cade, I'm going into Trajan's office and I'm like, you need to get me help. Like, you need to figure something out. You can trade away all these bums. I need somebody else to help me. I can't do this by myself. And I would have that honest conversation with him. And that to me was the biggest and probably the most disappointing thing I took out of that press conference, besides wanting to fall asleep, like you said earlier in the show. To me, it sounds like it's a lot of bringing the band back together, and I don't want to see that. What did you take out of the Trajan presser besides possibly catching a 15-minute cat nap?
Yeah. So basically it's like, wow, good question. Am I clairvoyant? I got to sit and watch a team win 60 games. What's the issue? Is something wrong? Are the commoners upset? Are the podcasters fiddling their thumbs? Something's wrong? Did you not appreciate me coming down from my throne and bestowing upon you 60 wins and something called the playoffs to you common folk? But come on, man. I mean, come on. All you had to do was kind of like hit there's a thing, you're a multi-millionaire. Hit the Red Bull, my brother, just for once. I mean, that guy's pristine. He's like, get me the chicken Caesar salad, take out all the cheese, please, and he's pristine. Twice a year, hit the Red Bull and show us some love and show us some energy. Like, come on, man. He is cerebral. Holy cow. I wanted to walk up there and shake him and be like, you got any pulse up in there? We're mad. You kicked me in the nuts with that team. But I looked at it. There's only one answer, like I said, that just pissed me off, and it reflected on what I said earlier. He said, well, I hate this line. It's stupid. He's like, if I would have told you back in September 60 wins in second round of the playoffs, I would have been like, oh, hell yeah. But I would have said, yeah, but if you would have told me in January you had a team that could win and the guys from the East, he left out all the context, and 2 big-time players from the East are out, and you whip the Knicks a couple times. I'm like, you know what? This is our shot. Let's go for it. And it just lends to my idea that, and others, journalists tend to be like, yeah, this is a process. I don't care about a process anymore. I look at every season as first place is ecstasy and second place is nothing. That's sports. And yes, you may take a swing and cost yourself a couple years, but at least you tried. This feels like you just left something out there that could have been. It feels like a wasted opportunity. I just don't sit here and go, well, you had no chance. Because remember, you beat the Lakers when you had a team that was full of try-hard guys. So I'm not going to sit here and just dismiss it. But I felt like this team could have gotten to the finals. But that's all that I took out of it is like, oh, if you told me this, it wasn't a successful year. It was a choke job. It was a letdown based on expectations. You were at least a Final Four team, minimum. And I just think that you didn't give the team, and I wonder too, when they don't make a move and they're like, well, they probably think we're good, but we're not that good. Like, these guys are not dumb. They're not like unrealistic. I know they have big egos, but they look at the league and go, oh yeah, Wemby and SGA are like legends. It's tough. So I just looked at it like, I when things change, you got to just be a little bit more aggressive and at least address the thing that everybody said was your bugaboo. That's the one thing that still just sticks in my craw. We said not enough shooting and then not enough shooting last year. And what's happening is, what's so gross is the fans need a seat at the table. Like, we don't have to run the team, but we need what did we say about the Tigers? Not enough hitting. 15 innings, no runs. What do we say about the Lions? The defense isn't good enough. You're not pressuring the quarterback enough. What happens? Aaron Rodgers is picking you apart. Stafford's picking you apart. Your defense is giving up way too many explosive plays. Your defense is not good enough. Oh, yeah, maybe now I should pick up a couple defensive ends and address the interior of the defensive line and figure out the defense. Yeah, maybe defense does win championships as I trade 3 draft picks for a wide receiver when we got 2 legendary ones already. Come on. Sports is tough, but not rocket science. The formula is given to you by teams that win. Copy it. And I just think that these teams, and I do think it can't be coincidence. I just think that general managers have a philosophy and they go, you were bad and it's going to take 3 to 4 years to be good. And I can't, and what really bothered me was when he was shook by the fact, like, he said, I can't believe, he said it to the microphone, I can't believe we're having championship talks after 2 years. Dog, you had a number 1 overall pick. You had multiple top 5 picks. What do you think you want to do with them? Sit on them? Cook them? Develop them? Come on, dude. You know, that's how you win, is with top picks. So when you have top picks, the expectation is to push. I'm shocked. I'm really shocked. I did the job. He portrayed it like he was legendary. Like, come on, dog. You had Cade Cunningham. He's not a bum. And, the NBA, if you play a bit of defense and try, you win 60 games. So it's not like rocket science here. You need a floor spacer and a shooter, and you got nothing. So that's what's frustrating is that he played this whole, wow, we overachieved card. Wow, the whole process. Listen, man, every season it's its own chapter, and what the journalists do is they already automatically move on to the next year. I'm still mourning the loss of what could have been this year, and I don't just move on in 24 hours. That's how Doc and Jock operate. We look at what happened, and we don't just say, just evidenced by the lines regressing. We don't just say, welcome back as we get out of here. Look at the Tigers. Best plans available. What do we say? Hey, you don't got enough offense. Scott Harris is like, you guys want offense? Watch this. Scooble arbitration. Okay, let me give Framber Valdez $38 million. Let me do that. Instead of maybe adding 2 bats, and you could have got 2 bats, 2 arms, $7 million each, and figured it out. Nope. He actually, I think, for the bad luck, I think the baseball gods caught him. And this is all speculation and me thinking out loud here at the end of the show. He cheated the system. He cheated the baseball gods. He said we have a process, and he was like, you know what? We need some positivity. I give him a little JV. I give him a little big contract with Framber Valdez. You know what? These people will eat it up. And he's like, yeah, you know what? His minions were like, you know what? Doc and Jock have been on your ass, bro. That Doc and Adam, they've been on your ass. Yeah, you give them JV. Oh, they'll love you for 2 weeks. They'll drop their pants. They're like, yes. And then Framber Valdez, you paid someone $38 million. Nobody paid attention to how up and down his season was with Houston. Oh, well, yeah, they'll love it. They'll love it. Damn, we're not cheap anymore. So the baseball gods were like, yeah, this is the antithesis of what you were saying about your process and figuring it out. And so the baseball gods were like, oh, really? You want to cut corners? Here you go. Boom, 9 injuries.
Well, here, look.
So they're like, we're like, what the hell? This team was one of the healthiest teams. All of a sudden, nobody can stay healthy.
Nobody's healthy.
And they're ending up losing. So who knows?
Well, here, to your point, real quick, right? We've talked about them needing offense and needing a bat. And what they do, they went in and they invested heavily with pitching, right? You look at their team stats for this season, they are either bottom half of the league or bottom third of the league for every important stat, whether it be runs, batting average, slugging percentage, on base percentage. They are absolute dog shit on offense. And that's the one thing that we were begging for going into the season. We need a bat. 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 This team has trouble scoring more than 2 and 3 runs in a game. And it's really tough when your pitching staff is giving up 5 and 6 and 7 runs a game to be competitive that way. So it does not surprise me that we are where we're at if you're a Detroit Tigers fan.
No doubt about it. Losing streak. Cleveland's kicking your tail in. It's a tough stretch, Almost 8 games behind in the division, 9-10 games under 500. It's getting to that point, cuz we'll break it down a little bit more next week, but very, very concerning. And then on top of that, which is funny, but it's just time and place. Like, you're getting your tail kicked in. It's not the time for the shirtless people to be celebrating at Comerica Park. It was weird. I like it. It's fun. It's fan-friendly. Tarps off. But I look at it like it rings hollow when you lose the baseball game. But it's fun. It's cheering. It makes baseball a little bit more tolerable and something fans can be a part of. So if you want to drop $20 for a ticket, take your shirt off. You might end up in a social media post. Thanks, cuz. Follow Adam on X at Adam R. STROZ. Follow us at Detroit Podcast. Thanks, everybody, for your time and attention these last couple of weeks. Fun stuff ahead over the summer as we break down how these teams are going to shake out to improve. And next week, we'll have a chance to preview OTAs. Next Friday. So if you're listening, you get a little sneak preview. The 29th is the first time we get to go out and see the Detroit Lions out on the football field in shorts and working out and chit-chatting, all that stuff. Talk to Dan Campbell. So now you know, if you listen to Doc and Jock, you know something that has not been publicly released. Thanks, everybody. Let's talk next week on the next episode of Doc and Jock, which is aired on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
You fucking podcasters. I said don't let them in here.